Welcome to the Happy Hour with Rob Warner, an hour of stimulating conversation adding value to your financial future. Rob brings helpful insights into many aspects of the mortgage and real estate industry. Now, here's your host, Rob Warner.
Happy Monday, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Happy Hour. I'm Rob Warner with Guild Mortgage, and I hope all of you mothers out there had a tremendous Mother's Day yesterday. I know it was a fun day for us. I have two great guests on my show today, Celeste Bates with EXP Realty and Ian Maker, owner of Amicable Insurance. As many of you may know, the objective of this radio show is to bring value to you, so I hope that we accomplish that goal today. So, without further ado, we have the lovely Celeste on today. How you doing, Celeste?
Thank you, Rob. I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing excellent.
Awesome.
I had the pleasure of meeting you a few weeks ago at an open house, and I got to see you in action with some clients, so I was impressed, and that's the reason you're on my show today.
I appreciate that. Hopefully I didn't scare too many people.
No, you were like aggressive, really working for your client, and I thought that was really something, the way you were going to bat for your client. I said, hell, she's got them covered. So.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, gosh, where do I start? You got like a week because I can talk for a week. No, I've been in real estate actually for 2 years. I was with a smaller brokerage before I joined EXP, and but I've been in the entrepreneur side of business for years and years and years. I've been around my father's business. He's a licensed general contractor, as well as my husband, my brother. So it's a family thing to be around homes, home ownership, and all of that stuff. So,
oh, very good. Yeah. Now, you're the daughter of a preacher, is that correct?
I am the daughter of a preacher, which can that could go either way, I think. But fortunate for me at the moment, it's working for me, and I thank God for everything I have.
How's that working?
Wonderful. I actually am a worship leader. I'm in music. I do a lot with my church, with my parents, and so it's going good.
Yeah, you mentioned to me you're into jazz and singing. Is that correct?
I am, a little bit. A little more on the country rock side of everything, bluegrass. I was raised with a lot of bluegrass roots. My family's from down south, Alabama, all of those places. And so that comes across, I think, in a lot of my music. But
very good.
I do a little bit of writing.
Oh, you do?
I do.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So you were talking to me like availability of information. Can you elaborate on that?
Okay, well, in real estate, everybody nowadays has basically the same information. We've got, all these sites, Zillow, Trulia, Redfin, all of that stuff. People go to these places, to get the latest listings and all that stuff. So as far as availability of information, people, they have it all. They can see it all. They know the same information that I do. And so as far as educating them on the market, they're pretty much up to speed on the market. They know what they're looking for and all that stuff. My job really is to make sure that a transaction goes well, and the first thing I can do to ensure that happens is to make myself available. Just show up, be available, make sure that I'm answering questions in a timely fashion, and return emails, texts, phone calls. I've done business at 3 o'clock in the morning, literally at 3 o'clock in the morning, much to my family's dismay. But, you just make yourself available and make sure that people understand that they can reach you anytime.
Oh, that's good that you are. So do you have, so how big's your family?
There's 5 of us. I have myself, my husband, and my 3 children, Chloe, Corbin, and Christian. So, yeah. So
that's a full-time job in itself.
It is. And I recently acquired a rooster. Yeah, right. He just kind of showed up on our doorstep one day between us and the building next door, and he just has not gone away. And we've named him Max. So if you go to my Instagram account, you'll see a couple snapshots of Max. One actually inside my front door, which was a little crazy. I traded a dog for a rooster. I don't know what that's about, but yeah, whatever.
So how does that work out with the family? And I know when I first started in lending, my daughter used to get so frustrated dragging her around, with me to open houses on weekends and such. Do you find that?
Well, no, actually, I think I find that my kids are pretty much raising themselves at this point. They're 11, 13, and 15. I'm pretty much just a bumper at this point. They do their thing, and I just make sure that, they don't kill each other. I think that's probably the goal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Get home and make sure everybody's still alive. There's no blood on the floor and all that. No, they're very patient with me. They understand business. they've been around it their entire life, and I appreciate their flexibility. I really do. So
what else besides availability and everything would kind of set you apart, you think, from another realtor?
Well, EXP, which is the platform that I come from, the broker that I am currently with, has really opened up. They've just opened up the availability of the realtor themselves. They give us all the tools, and then they just say go, because we're entirely agent owned as far as the brokerage goes. So it's really the sky's the limit when it comes to how you want to market yourself, how you want to do all of this stuff. So what I did within the last couple of weeks is I bought the domain realtor.com, and sorry, not realtor.com, CafeRealtor.com. Sorry, realtor.com. I did not mean to impede on your whatever. So there we go.
CafeRealtor.com.
CafeRealtor.com. Yeah, let's specify. So I went ahead and bought that domain, and that's been up and running. I love it. It's wonderful. And the concept behind that is I'm not waiting for a client to come to me. I'm going to go to them, right? There's this, I think I told you earlier, there's this little street in Roseville. It's Folsom Road, back there in the back behind Roseville Square. And there's this really great real estate office back there. And the last time I drove by, they had their stakes out, they had flags and all of this stuff, really nicely done. They put a lot of work into it. But I passed them by and I went, wow, their parking lot is empty. Oh my gosh, what is that about? So then I drive into Roseville Square and I've got Starbucks. And the parking lot's full. People will actually bypass a real estate office to make sure that they get their $5 cup of whatever, small decaf macchiato. I don't know, whatever that looks like. But they will put aside, their comfort to make sure that they get their coffee every single day. And if I can make sure that I am available where they are, then maybe I have a better chance of really meeting them on their level. And just being.
So this is your new office? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
That is exactly what I'm trying to tell you. Yeah, that is my new office.
You're the Starbucks in Roseville.
I'm at the Starbucks in Roseville, the corner of Douglas and Harding, and I've hung out there for a while. And this is by no means, as Quinn said, this is where a lot of realtors choose to do business. I think I'm just maybe one of the first people that's actually chosen to make that.
I've got a friend who parks his Ferrari, and he does insurance.
Right.
And he just parks his Ferrari there, and he sits in there all day long, and everyone's like, "Hey, who's Ferrari?"
Right, exactly.
And he just goes and introduces himself and signs them up for a policy.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. I meet clients there all the
exactly.
time too, and when I'm there, everybody, you see people showing up to meet their clients there. It's kind of funny because we all think that we're there to meet. They'll say, "Are you so and so? Are you so and so?" And it's like, no, because we're all there to meet different people. It's kind of amazing how that all works.
It's a great networking site. I was sitting next to a software developer for the longest time, didn't even know it. And you get people from all walks of life. You get, obviously homeless people come in, they use the facilities, and they're wonderful to, minister to once in a while. And then you get people who are middle class, upper middle class, lower class, and then you get high class people who they just simply want Starbucks. Starbucks has done a terrific job, of course, of marketing themselves. So why not take advantage of that? And I really think that is working for me.
Very well.
Yeah.
So we're getting ready to go to a break in a minute here, but I don't want to get you caught in the middle of something. Tell me something else about what excites you about real estate, if you can.
Well, I'm one of these crazy people that think that I can make a difference for people. I don't know. I see real estate coming down to maybe a commonplace thing. We're not the people up on the mountain wearing the suits anymore. We're, just wearing jeans and tennis shoes and saying, hey, how can I help you today? It's just, it all comes back to the availability thing.
I have noticed that lately. There's, that, I don't know what you called it before, but that, it is more laid back now than it ever has been.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I guess it's a good thing.
I think it's a good thing because we're engaging the current marketplace.
All right, hold that thought. We're going to go for a quick break. Hang on, everyone. We'll be right back with the happy hour.
Bringing helpful insights into many aspects of the mortgage and real estate industry, it's the Happy Hour with Rob Warner.
Fairy tales can come true. It can happen to you if you're young at heart. For it's hard, you will find, to be narrow of mind if you're young at heart.
Here's your host, Rob Warner. And that was the lovely Bailey Pelkman. For those of you who did not know that rendition of that Frank Sinatra song, I thought I'd give a plug to her. I think it's a great rendition.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. So, tell me, Celeste, not to put you on the spot, what challenges do you face in real estate? What things come up on a daily basis?
Daily basis. Well, at the moment, what I have is a lot of clients who are finally wanting to start purchasing. But unfortunately, what we've got is smaller purchasing power, and then our marketplace is just so freaking high right now. Sorry, Mom, I told you I wouldn't say the word freaking on radio. So sorry. Anyway, so but the marketplace is just, it seems to be a little bit out of reach, and they're coming in, of course, with these FHA loans, and they think that they can find this really, really great clean house somewhere around 175, 200,000, and that's just really not realistic. Usually that's where flippers come in, and they want to start purchasing the property. They'll pay cash and all that stuff, and so finding them a property that they can get into on something that's not as do you understand what I'm saying?
I see it every, I have
Right.
a
Do you have
list
clients
of
like that?
people right now that cannot get into homes for the
Right.
same reason, and I'll talk about this to 'em, the blue in the face, because they can't really qualify. There's nothing available unless they want to live somewhere where they have bars on the windows.
Right, exactly. So what? Now let me ask you this question, if I can. Flip the tables on you real quick.
Okay.
Can I do that? Okay.
Yeah.
So do you have a creative, and I don't mean creative financing in a bad way, but I mean tools that you offer as a mortgage broker where you say, hey, maybe this is for someone who's a little lower on the pay scale. What does that look like for you?
Well, I'm kind of conservative, so I try to counsel people. I don't want to put somebody in a home they can't afford, even though
Right.
they may qualify for it. So the way it goes with me is what can you afford and what you can qualify for.
Right.
And they're two entirely different things. So this conversation always asks, what payment can you really afford? You're the only one that knows that, as a homeowner or a home buyer, right?
Right.
I know
That's
what
true.
you qualify for, but I don't know what your medical expenses are, your schooling for your kids, preschool, whatever you have. Only the client knows that.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to tailor things that way. But what I'm finding lately is people are stepping outside of their comfort zone, and it's kind of scary.
Does that harken back maybe to the 1980s market, do you think? Are we kind of getting into that uncomfortable feel where people are taking a little more risk?
I think people have been taking risks for the last several years, but more so now just because they're afraid they won't be able to ever buy a home.
Right.
And I'm not sure if that's true or not. I think the economy is going to balance itself out. Do you agree with that? Sooner or later, when the incomes don't go any higher,
Right.
something's got to give.
Something's
You
gotta
can't
give,
keep on
exactly.
going up with price if the incomes aren't going to
Right. Nope.
accommodate that, right?
I completely understand. And there's always a check and balance. Eventually things are going to shift. And that's what I'm really encouraging these folks on is, hey, it's not going to stay like this forever. It just keep, increasing your down payment budget. Go ahead and keep saving more money. Put a little more away every month. If that's a dream and that's a goal that you have, don't stop here. Don't just assume that you're doing just the minimum, 3 or 5% down. Go ahead and keep saving.
So make
Keep
it a
going.
long-term goal if it's not right
Absolutely.
now, right?
And maybe,
okay.
and then maybe going back to basics when it comes to financing and when it comes to home ownership. But, if it works, don't kill it, right?
Oh,
yeah.
I agree.
It's what's worked for the longest time. So,
So
just keep
how
going.
do you tell people, let's say somebody is qualified
Mm-hmm.
and there's 5 or 6 offers on a house and they lose out, like 3 or 4 times.
That is
how do you
disheartening.
keep them? Do you tell them up front, look, this could be a tedious process. Don't give up.
Yeah, don't give up. Hang in there with me. I just warn them up front. Hey, there's a lot of people out there with ready money who maybe have a little bit more to offer. There's a way to structure an offer, though, that makes it a little more appealing, even if it's not the highest offer, maybe a shorter close. And that's where working with a really great lender comes into play. If you've got someone that you know, love, and trust, like I do. I have 3 different lenders that I work with on a regular basis. I love them, and working with them is such a privilege because I know that they can wrap things up. They can get an appraisal in usually within the first 20 days, which is fantastic. So we're able to come in and say, hey, it may be an FHA, but give us a shot, give us a 30-day close. So there's things that you can do to make yourself just look a little more presentable. You can maybe even shorten the inspection period. If you've got something that maybe doesn't need a well inspection or doesn't need a septic, it's just a basic, let's go in and do a home inspection or a pest inspection, whatever they want, then line that out, do it in the first 10 days. And if you have vendors that you trust, home inspection companies and pest inspection companies, then you're able to do that. You can line them out just like that, just fire it off and make sure that they just make sure that they follow through. It's really actually pretty easy.
It's a team concept, and I keep telling people you have to have the team. You have to have Ian's going to be our next guest, and he's in the insurance industry, but you have to have the insurance company, you have to have the termite company, you have to have everybody on the same page.
You do.
And that way you can pull off a fast escrow.
And one of the things that I really love to emphasize is I get on the horn with my transaction coordinator, who I love. Vanessa, I love you. I just want you to know that, kiddo. I love you so much. So you get on the horn with your transaction coordinator, the lender that you're working with on either side. It doesn't matter. The title company that you're working with, the listing or buying agent that you have. Everybody needs to be on the same page. I really love communication. I love working with people who don't mind going the extra mile, who are willing to work things out. It's fun to scream at people. I'm not gonna lie. It's fun to scream at people. You ever had that experience?
Yes.
Where you're like, oh, let me unload on you for just 5 seconds because, I didn't get my therapy today, so I'm gonna scream at you, and and that's always fun. But I'd really rather a transaction feel like a partnership. That way, when everything is said and done, nobody feels like they've, the sheep killing dog in the process, right?
Exactly.
I don't want to feel like that. That's crummy. And
no, if you have everybody synchronized,
Yeah.
it takes a lot of stress away from a transaction.
heck yeah, yes.
So talk to me. You mentioned this word daunting, and I'm like, daunting?
What is
Okay.
daunting about real estate? Well, everything. No, I think the one thing I was thinking about when I said the word daunting is that as a realtor, coming from a realtor perspective, not talking to the client here for a second, I'm talking to realtors out there. If you are in the process of just getting everything up and going, don't stop. There are so many options. It's like walking into Baskin Robbins. You've got 31 flavors in front of you, and you stand there for, 10 minutes, and you try to decide really, what to do, where to go. Well, in real estate, we have 31,000 flavors. There's a million ways to market yourself. There's a million programs to go with. There's a million different brokerages out there. Find what works for you. Narrow it down to about 3 or 4. Make a concerted effort to just limit your options. And if there's something that you are comfortable with, like sitting in a coffee shop, then don't reinvent the wheel. Don't try to make it some huge concept. Just go. Just do it. Just pick one thing and run with it. It doesn't take 10 different avenues. And does that make sense to you?
Yeah, because a lot of people, they set goals way too high, or they set too many goals.
Right.
They might have like 10 goals and they're never going to accomplish them, and then they feel like they failed.
And it's like deer in the headlights at that point. You just feel like you're just overwhelmed, and then you don't do anything. You're so afraid to do something wrong that you don't do anything at all. And that's really not the way to go. Keep going. That would be my best advice. If you're in real estate and you just don't know what the next step is, just pick one.
So you
Just
felt
pick
that
one.
way early on,
Oh, yes. Yes.
and then you stuck with it. You kept moving.
Well, no, actually. I paused in the middle of it. In fact, 3 weeks ago, I was updating my resume. I thought, I can't do this anymore.
What?
No, seriously. Yeah, that's where I was. I was sitting on the couch, updating my resume. I was ready to just chuck it all in, and then suddenly I've got CafeRealtor.com just popped into my brain, which was not my idea. I am not that smart. I just want everybody to know that. I think it was a God thing. So, but you just... You never know what's going to happen, what little thing in your life is going to flip the switch, and then you just take off.
So tell
Don't
me,
stop.
I got to go back to this CafeRealtor.
Yeah. Okay, go for it.
What is it all about?
What is that all about? CafeRealtor is about getting in front of people who otherwise probably wouldn't even darken your doorway. They just wouldn't. So I show up, just so you know what my day looks like. I get dressed, obviously, hopefully, God willing, take a shower, get my kids to school, maybe on time. I love you, Corbin and Christian. I just want you to know that. And then, I'm out the door, maybe 9:30. I'm sitting at Starbucks, and that's exactly what I do. I sit at Starbucks, and I smile when people walk in. When they walk in, they see my face. I'm lit up like crazy, and pretty soon I'm going to have my own logo. I'm working on logos. Thank you, Jeremy. I'm working on all these little things and making myself a little more visible every day. But it's really consistency. Pick the same coffee shop. I don't know what that looks like for you, but just
So
just
how
be
do they know
consistent.
who you are and what you do, or do you?
They walk up to me, Rob. People just walk up to me. They go, "Hey, you've been here for forever. What are you doing? I just want to know what you're
Wow.
doing."
Okay.
And then suddenly you've made a friend, you've made a connection, and they're giving you
That's how we got the show.
right. Well, see, yeah, you just
You just at the right place at the right time.
Exactly.
That's what people want.
So you're going
Exactly.
there like clockwork then.
like clockwork. Yeah.
So when you literally told me, what did you say earlier? You said my little real estate shop on Folsom Boulevard, right?
Well, that was the little real estate shop that's probably not doing very well at the moment.
But I mean that the Starbucks became that.
Absolutely, Starbucks is visible. It's
Boy,
out
we're
there.
plugging Starbucks right now. But
You know what? If you go to my Instagram, it's CafeRealtor. If you go to my Instagram, just about every shot that I take has my sunglasses in it. So everybody see these are my sunglasses. Heaven help me if I lose these things. I just want everybody to know that. If you have a good suggestion of where I can get other sunglasses, please let me know.
So that's like your trademark.
It is my trademark. And then I usually have a Starbucks coffee cup in there because that's what I am. CafeRealtor.com.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay, we got a few minutes left.
Okay,
Just
okay.
elaborate a little more on a client. Let's say a client meets you at Starbucks
Mm-hmm.
and you start up a conversation.
Yeah.
Kind of say,
What does that look
Yeah,
like?
what does it look like?
Well, it looks like, I kind of kick back and I go, okay, well, what are you looking for? How can I help you? Have you started the finance process? Have you talked to a lender? If they're a buyer, it's always have you talked to a lender. If they're a seller, well, what do you think your home is worth? And have you already talked to a realtor up front? I want to know if they've already got someone on the line. I want to know who I'm dealing with. And typically, I have a whole host of people that I can recommend. If they're looking for a finance person, then I fire off an email. This is who I recommend. This is who I know, love, and trust. And I recommend these people. Go with this. And, for buyers, it really, it just depends on what they're looking for, what their expectations are of me. I don't have a problem, Rob, of firing, a seller or a buyer. I just want you to know that. I don't have a problem walking away and saying, you know what, I can't work with you. We don't get along well. Well, I won't tell them that, of course. Just know, all you people out there in Radio Land, I will not tell you that to your face.
But no, if you don't get along with somebody, why? I'm sure they would feel the same way. Nobody wants to work with somebody that they
No,
don't really
and
hit it off
that's
with.
why we have how many realtors in the area? Like a billion.
Yeah.
So,
33,000.
32. Thank you.
Well, it
Gwen.
is good
Yeah.
to definitely be on the same page with somebody. I know.
I am not the end all. I am just one person, and I do not know everything. So
Well, we're getting ready to go to our break, but what I want to do is make sure everybody has your phone number.
yeah, 916-580-7464. Email let's chat at CafeRealtor.com.
Let's
Right?
chat at CafeRealtor.com and 916-580-7464.
That is true. Yes, all day, every day.
Well, it's been a pleasure having you on the show,
Thank you, Rob.
Celeste, and wish you well
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
and have a. Oh, I was going to say have a good rest of the week.
Thank
I thought
you.
I was being cut off by my.
And I did have a happy Mother's Day, actually.
Oh,
Yeah, I did.
good.
There you
good,
go.
Very good.
Thank you for that.
We'll be back after the break, everybody.
Your financial future. It's the Happy Hour with Rob Warner.
Welcome back to the Happy Hour, everyone. This is Rob Warner with Guild Mortgage, and I'm happy to have you on the show today. Or happy to have you listening, I should say. Well, we have our next guest for you, Mr. Ian Maker from Amicable Insurance. Ian and I have known each other personally for several years, and I'm excited to have him on today. Ian, good having you here.
Thank you, Rob. Tough act to follow after Celeste.
Yep. Hey, Ian, I know you were a top producing realtor in the past. So the question comes up, what made you get into insurance?
Well, Rob, I found that after being in the insurance industry for 34, or in the real estate industry for 34 years, that there was a niche that wasn't being followed through on. A lot of deals were falling apart in the last minute because the insurance wasn't handled, and the service that was in the insurance industry had fallen by the wayside. And I saw that opportunity where you could put insurance back into the business. Let me ask you a question. When was the last time you heard from your insurance agent?
Well, my insurance agent on my own property?
Literally.
Yeah.
When was the last time you heard
I never
from him?
hear from that person. I don't
that's
even know if
generally
I
the
have an
answer,
insurance
yeah.
agent anymore, to tell you the truth.
Exactly. Most people, somebody gets the policy and they never hear from them again. And that's where I saw an opportunity, was the fact that put service back into the business.
So was it hard? I mean, giving up you were a top producer, right?
I was number 22 in the nation with Remax in 2008. I was selling bank-owned properties, and it was quite the career. But I needed a new challenge in my life, and Lord knows this has been a challenge.
Oh, I know. I remember when you first were making the decision to do that, and I'm nodding my head going, oh, my gosh.
Yeah, what are you doing?
You're making a complete switch from one field to the other.
Right.
And you pulled it off.
Yeah. Well, it took a lot of hard work and a lot of dedication, a lot of vision. And, it's kind of like Henry Ford's fireside motto, and it's just having the enthusiasm to stay in the game. And that's what it took to make it apart and to set it apart from everybody else.
Well, you don't have any lack of enthusiasm, that's for sure.
Well, thank you.
So look, I know you opened your own brokerage, so what made you go that direction?
Well, I decided not to go with a captive company, and let's talk about that for real quick so you understand. There's a difference between a captive insurance company and a brokerage. When you're captive, you work for a company like a State Farm or a Farmers or one of those companies, and you can only sell their product. And I felt that having that service being a very important part of the business, that I needed to open up a brokerage where I represented a number of different firms, allowing me to shop the product for the individual and get them the best value and the best product that I could possibly get them for what their current situation was.
Okay, yep, that makes sense, because I know that a lot of times I try to shop insurance, or I shouldn't say I shop it. I ask the client to get their insurance quote, and all they have is the one company they know, State Farm or Farmers, that they have their auto with, right? And,
right.
And sometimes that insurance company can't insure the particular home.
Well, and that's exactly it. When you work for one of those companies, the only product you can sell is their product. And so it doesn't give you the flexibility you need to go out into the marketplace and help people.
Right. So that's why I usually, as a regular basis, refer folks to you too, Ian, just so you can get another quote so you can compare.
Which is always appreciated. You always get a $2 bill every time you send me a referral.
Ian does that for me. He gives me a $2 bill. And then I tape them to my file cabinet.
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty humorous.
He's got a fan of $2 bills on his file cabinet.
It's kind of a neat little thing. I think it's kind of a cool little thing. Besides your chocolate bars, by the way.
Well, there you go.
Oh, what kind of chocolate?
We're always doing the dark chocolate, French dark chocolate.
Man alive.
Yeah, that's kind of nice. So I wanted to get into the meat of the matter a little bit, because these are some obstacles that really are important. Talk to me about renter's insurance. I know this is funny talking about renter's insurance on a mortgage show, but tell me about renter's insurance, because I've heard horror stories about people that don't have renter's insurance. And then there's the house burns down or whatever.
Well, let's touch on that, Rob. First off, most people think that renter's insurance, all they need renter's insurance for is if the place burns down and their belongings are covered. But that's not at all the case. Renter's insurance is very much like having a insurance on the home that you own, and having homeowner's insurance. And the reason being is it also carries with it liability insurance. So say, for example, I'm ironing my clothes, I'm late for work, I run out the door, I leave the iron on, and I'm in a duplex, and the iron catches fire, that sets the place ablaze, the duplex burns down, and I'm at fault. I have liability for burning that building down, and I don't have any insurance. What happens? Well, the insurance company for the landlord has fire insurance. They'll go in and replace the building, but not the belongings of the tenant next door. The tenant next door gets an attorney, or they have an insurance company. The insurance company pays off. The insurance company's attorney then turns around and sues me as an individual for setting the fire on the duplex. Well, if I don't have any renter's insurance, I have no liability for insurance for protecting myself from burning down the building. It's an accident, but I still carry the liability. It's my fault. So that's one reason why you want to have renter's insurance, because it protects your liability. The other reason is that, say, for example, you have belongings in your automobile, and those belongings, the car gets broken into, and somebody steals your belongings. Well, your auto insurance is not going to cover those belongings, but your renter's insurance is going to cover those belongings in the automobile.
I never knew that. I thought the auto insurance would cover theft.
No, the auto insurance doesn't cover the theft at all. The auto insurance only covers the automobile.
Huh.
So if you have the renter's insurance, it's going to cover the belongings in the automobile. Another reason why you need the renter's insurance, as well as the fact that it covers the belongings in your own rental unit that you're renting, and it covers all of your belongings there. So if it burns down or it gets stolen or something like that, then it's taken care of.
So does it benefit a landlord for the tenant to have renter's insurance too? Is it a
Absolutely, and it's for that very reason that we just talked about, is the fact that if something happens on the property and it causes damage to the property, the landlord doesn't have any real issues because the renter's insurance is going to cover it because they're liable for the damage.
so it really is behooving of a landlord to require a tenant to get
Without a doubt. I mean, it makes real good sense. If you're a landlord, you should be having your tenants get renter's insurance on the property, and it just makes it comfortable for everybody who's involved.
because I've heard it if the house burned down, for instance, that the renter's insurance would cover like hotel stay or some intermediate housing too. Is that
It will
correct?
absolutely cover your intermediate housing. So if you have a catastrophic damage to the property and you don't have a place to live, it'll cover your place to habitate for the next 6 months.
I know I'm wearing this out, but this is so important because I've heard so many stories about it, and the landlord's policy doesn't cover that displacement of that tenant.
No, it does not.
Wow. So
Generally,
yeah,
does
I've
not,
heard
yeah.
stories about tenants being really losing everything because they just didn't pay the whatever. What does a policy like that cost roughly for a tenant policy?
It could be anywhere from $100 to $300 a year.
And that's it.
And that's really nothing and negligible when you think about it. And when you think about you're getting $100,000 to $300,000 in liability to cover you, let's say you're riding your bicycle on the bike trail and you come around a corner and little Johnny's on his bicycle and you didn't see him and you run the kid over and you harm him. Okay, and he can't walk for 2 years, and they come after you and sue you for that. Well, if you've got liability insurance and you got a couple $100,000 of liability, little Johnny's going to be taken care of. And you're going to be liable for that accident. If you don't have renter's insurance or mortgage or homeowner's insurance where your liability is covered, you're not going to have anything to protect you in the event that something like that happens.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I hear these stories because I've talked to several people, and it's really scary. Talk about the word daunting. It's daunting. No, it is.
And it's so minuscule when you talk about the amount of money that's required to cover yourself, to protect your assets in an overall kind of, big way. You spend more than that at Starbucks getting coffee.
Yeah. So if I was a landlord, the prudent thing to do is probably put it into the rent or something. Or
Well, no, the individual has to purchase
Oh,
it
they
on
do?
their own. It is
Okay.
required that they purchase it on their own because the insurance benefits the person who's using the insurance.
But you could mandate it, right? You could. Is it or can't you? Do you know? Can a landlord require it?
I'm not clear on the real estate law on that, but I know a lot of them do have a quasi requirement that they tell me about.
Yeah, it just seems prudent.
Yeah.
Another thing, something else that's really a big one right now is with all the fires we had last year is the fire line insurance. I know we're probably going to have to go to a break soon, but I want to, start talking about that, about the difficulty of insuring a home like near where the rim fire was or other fires.
Well, it's not even the difficulty of insuring a home as far up as the rim fire. I mean, we have a fire line issue as low as El Dorado Hills right now. It's coming down the hill, and it's gotten even worse as a result of the wet winter. And so what's happened is that the underbrush has now grown, and it's created fuel for the rest of these dead trees that are still in the foothills. And this fire line, and for those of you that don't understand what a fire line is it's a fire hazard zone. And it's gotten further and further and further down into the foothills, and the insurance companies are non-renewing on the insurance policies because they don't want to have the liability on these properties as a result of the fire line being so severe, because their exposure is so great.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a constant because I live up in Shingle Springs, so I do a fair amount of loan transactions up in, even Pollock Pines or Camino or areas like that.
Well, and that can actually be a deal killer for somebody like you, because I can't tell you how many times I've seen where the debt to income has been affected as a result of the insurance policy coming in at the last minute, because these fire line insurance policies can be as much as $2,000 or $3,000 a year.
Oh, I know. I have one right now in Pollock. And it's like, okay, that's like, there's a rating system, right? Isn't there like a number system, like from a 1 to 10 or something like that?
There is, and it has to do with how close you are to the fire hydrant. Are you within 10 minutes drive time? Now that's drive time, not distance, of the fire station. The fire hydrant has to be within 1,500 feet of the property. There has to be a 200-foot defensible space around the house. There's a number of factors that affect everything that has to do with fire lines. So your house can be there. And something to bear in mind is that we specialize in fire lines, so that's one of our big hot buttons. And oftentimes we get a lot of people coming to us going, well, they said that they wouldn't insure me. And we go to our underwriters, and something we're finding is that the Google pin for the map is getting placed right in the middle of the brush instead of where the house physically is. And so we're able to get people insurance as a result of the mapping being incorrect.
Huh. Wow. How do you figure that out? How do you know?
Well, what we do is we do an aerial look at the house and look at where the Google pin lands. And if it's landing right in the middle of the brush and the ridge, and we know that the house is at the bottom of the hill on the road, then we go to our underwriters and say, geez, we really need to look at this, and we need to take a hard look at this because it's not in the fire line. It's actually outside of that
Okay,
line.
hold that thought. We're going to go for a quick break, everyone. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with a happy hour in just another minute or so.
Showcasing local business and adding value to your financial future. It's the Happy Hour with Rob Warner on Money 105.5 and Money1055.com.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Happy Hour. I'm Rob Warner with Guild Mortgage, and we're back with Ian Maker, owner of Amicable. I got to say that 10 times fast. Amicable Insurance. Ian, we were touching on fire lines, and fire lines is a thing that is so important because you're right. It as a lender, it can mess a loan up, especially if somebody's right on the cusp of qualifying for a home and suddenly their policy is $200 or $250 a month, and we weren't factoring that dollar amount in. So what I try to do naturally with you is when early on in a transaction, like really early on, even before they're writing the offer, basically, or when they're writing it, try to find out what the policy is going to cost. So.
Well, with that, we also try and ensure that, people like you and the realtors, Celeste, we ask that you guys come to us early and say, I got this property that it's in a potential fire line. Can you do me a favor and get me a quote on it so that we know that it's insurable? Because here's the other thing we need to think about when we're doing a fire line quote. Oftentimes, we're going to have to take it to an outside vendor. We're not going to be able to take it to our regular go-to vendors because of the fact that it's a more difficult property to insure. So it's got to go to these outside vendors, these surplus lines, and it's going to take sometimes as much as 2 or 3 days to get them underwritten and approved. So we might have to go to a Lloyd's of London or something like that to get the policy.
Oh, talk to me about that. I didn't know you have to send those off to be underwritten.
Yeah, they're not things that we could just automatically go online and go to the platform and upload the information and get a policy bound. We have to send it out because they're specialized properties. So we have to go to a specialized insurer that deals with those types of properties.
Will they physically go to the property and look at it?
Oftentimes what we'll do is we'll physically look at the property first and make sure that it's insurable. And then once we get the insurance policy bound, after we get the policy bound, they'll send somebody out to do a property inspection and verify everything that we said is true and correct about the property. if they find anything that could be possibly an issue. They do still have the right to terminate the policy.
Yeah, I had one. This is not on the fire line, but I had one where they insured the property. The insurance company came by, I don't know what it was, a few weeks later, and they had pit bulls in the front yard. And so they wrote them a letter, a cancellation notice, said either remove the dogs or we're removing the insurance.
Well, I had a policy like that once, and we went ahead and wrote the policy and had everything, and we said that there was, a Chihuahua. And they told us they had a Chihuahua. They didn't tell us that they had 2 pit bulls in addition to the Chihuahua, right? And so they come back and they said, well, we're canceling the policy due to, and the insurance company, the inspector sent us a picture, and there's 2 pit bulls right next to this little Chihuahua in the middle.
What do you do in that case? I mean, can you, I'm changing gears on you, sorry, but can you get an insurance policy if you have dogs like that?
Yes, you can, actually. And that's another reason why I'm a broker versus being captive, because if I was in captive, I'm going to be left with whatever I have. If that situation occurs in my environment, I have a number of other carriers that I can go to and get the opportunity to be able to bind the policy and make sure that the people are insured properly.
Very good. There's another one that I know is just crucial as all get out, and that is regarding ordinance. Is it called ordinance endorsement?
Yeah, you want to get an ordinance endorsement. You want to make sure that your policy has an ordinance endorsement. Let's take, for example, a property like something in North Natomas, where the property was in a flood zone before any houses were ever there. And then somehow or another, by some miracle, gosh, I wonder how that happened, they got it out of the flood zone. Then they built all those wonderful homes there. And then somebody said, whoops, we got to put it back in a flood zone. Well, wait a minute. That's all well and good. Everybody can go out and get flood insurance. And if it floods, they're all protected and everybody's happy. Unless your house burns down. Then what do you do? Well, let's understand what ordinance insurance is. You could have an older home or, a home that's built in 1900 and it burns down and the codes have all changed since then. So as a result, there's electrical, plumbing, everything that has changed that has to be upgraded in the house. Well, if you don't have an ordinance clause on your insurance, they're going to pay for the structure of the home and the old style wiring, but they're not going to upgrade you to what today's code is. So if you have the ordinance clause in your policy, you want to make sure that that's on your policy to ensure that if your house burns down, it's going to get replaced. Now, in the case of the North Natomas, here's where the magic happens. Your house burns down. Now it's in a floodplain. The new building code says you have to build it up above the floodplain. So you have to add a parking storage or something underneath the house, or raise the dirt or raise it 5 feet or whatever to get it up above the floodplain and then build the structure on top of that. Well, if you don't have the ordinance endorsement, you're not going to be able to pay for that first portion that has to be built with the insurance. That's going to come out of your own pocket, and that's a big ticket. So having that insurance is, in the end game, worthwhile, and it's negligible. I mean, you're probably talking $20 a year, and it's hardly worth worrying about it. Just make sure you have the max you can get on the ordinance endorsement and the coverage.
But the regular, like the flood policy, what does that cover then?
Well, now the flood policy only covers flood damage. It doesn't cover anything else, and it
So we're talking about 2 different things now.
You're talking about 2 different
We're talking
things.
about a fire on a home in a flood zone, not a flood on so, okay, even if you have flood insurance, your fire insurance is not going to cover building that house in the proper elevations or getting a proper elevation on it.
You got it. So there are 2 different.
So what does the insurance company do? I'm just curious, though. I'm getting in a fine line here. What happens if the house burns down and you don't have that ordinance insurance? How do they rebuild it then?
Well, they're gonna give you enough dollars to do what was there. Then it's up to you to come up with the difference.
Oh my gosh,
which is why we want insurance. We want to be properly insured. Which is another reason why I got into this industry. Was so many times I saw where nobody people just go online and buy their insurance anymore, and they don't have an agent who actually sits down and talks with them and goes over and says, you need these limits to cover you in case, and here's why. And as long as you have those kinds of people that are talking to you, you can make an educated decision on how much you want to pay and how much you don't want to pay. I mean, it's either way. It can go either way.
Jeez, I'm telling you, there's a lot to know, and that's hence why I recommend Ian to folks, because you need to have all your ducks in a row up front. Because I know people this is another thing, Ian, to talk to me about this, because people come to me with like the lowest possible quote. That's all they're just looking at is that dollar amount, but we're talking about for a year,
And I won't give anybody just $100,000 liability coverage, because nowadays it's going to get you an attorney for about 20 minutes. Realistically, the lowest I like to write is $300, $500. Stay in there so that you have enough coverage that it's not going to bankrupt you if something catastrophic happens in your life and somebody comes after you and sues you for some kind of damages or anything. Here's something else you want to remember is that, say you got a homeowner's policy, right? And you got $300, $500, say you got $500,000 liability. An umbrella policy is going to cost you next to nothing, a couple $100 a year for $1 million. Well, now you got $1.5 million in coverage on your policy. What happens is you're driving down the road, little Johnny's in the passenger seat of mom and dad's car, and you miss the traffic light, you T-bone the car, and you just take little Johnny out, and you cripple little Johnny for life.
Oh, my God.
No, serious. This happens,
A
right?
lot has happened to Johnny today.
Well, Johnny's got bad luck. So, anyhow, what happens? No, we really need to think about this, though, because it's serious. It happens every day, and it really
No, I know it does.
And so what we're looking at is that the situation now is you got an insurance company who's on the hook because now the attorneys are coming after the full $1.5 million. How much money do you suppose an insurance company is going to throw after protecting themselves if they're on the hook for $1.5 million?
Okay, so they're going to put their best attorney on the...
Now, you got $100,000 liability insurance, and that's 20 minutes with an insurance or with an attorney. Here, let me just write you a check for $100,000. We're done. Those are your options.
Never thought of it that way.
You really need to be properly insured. For the couple $100, was it worth it? It's your coffee. Yeah. It's your coffee.
Oh, I
every
know.
day.
And on a monthly basis, we're talking like $20 a month. We're talking $200 a year extra, right? Not a month.
And these are all
reasons
why we want to be properly insured on our real estate and on the properties we rent, because
we're getting ready to wind down, so I want you to make sure you give your contact information to the audience, please.
Sure. It's Amicable Insurance Services Incorporated. And my phone number is 916-715-2018, or the office number is 916-436-4296. And that's Ian, I-A-N, at amicableinsurance.net.
Ian's a good resource, everyone. We've enjoyed being on today, and hopefully we'll have you back next Monday for the happy hour. Enjoy your week.